hello listeners, and welcome to this week's recording of Boomerang. Team 6 is here this week, and it's made up of Heather, Jessica, Margaret, Peter, and our engineer Ray. The news this week is taken with permission from the West Lothian Courier, dated the 13th of February 2025. As usual, the news will be broken into 4 parts. Can I remind you that when you have listened to the whole recording, please post your wallet back to us from a post box and not the post office. And before I start with part 1, which is general news, I'd like to make an announcement regarding the Boomerang Annual General Meeting. The Annual General Meeting for West Lothian Boomerang Talking Newspaper will be held on Saturday the 8th of March 2024 at 11 a.m. until approximately 1 p.m. in St Joseph's Church Centre, Rayburn Crescent, Whitburn, EH 47 8HQ, and you are cordially invited to come along. Our main speaker this year will be Jen Howard-Combs, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Amman Valley Heritage Centre in Livingston. After the business part of the meeting is over, refreshments will be served. Please let Heather know if you can attend, and you can do this by telephoning 077 07 83 06 34. Or you can put a note in your wallet and return it to the studio. Also, if you require transport, if you let Heather know, we can try and sort something out for you. So, this week's lead story in the Courier: Mourners line streets in tribute, Hope's final journey. 6-year-old was laid to rest after tragedy. And the article is by Ryan Carroll. Hundreds of mourners have lined the streets of Livingston on Monday for Hope Gordon's final journey as the schoolgirl was laid to rest. The 6-year-old was found dead alongside her 36-year-old dad, Mark, at a house in West Calder on January 20th. Police said they were treating the death as murder, but that her father's is not being treated as suspicious. Residents lined the streets to pay tribute to the loving little girl on what the family are calling Hope's Day. Following a private service at the Co-op Funeral Care on Howden South in Livingston, Hope's coffin was carried out of the funeral home by tearful family members. The cortege was then led by a horse-drawn carriage to Adambrae Cemetery. Images from the procession showed 2 white horses with blue and yellow feathers leading the carriage. Mourners could be seen in tears as the tiny coffin, which was decorated with characters from Hope's favourite TV show, Paw Patrol. Roses were also thrown onto the hearse as it made its way down the road. In a message on social media titled Hope's Final Journey, Co-op Funeral Care previously revealed the route of the procession. They said, Hope will leave Co-op Funeral Care Livingston at approximately 12:45 p.m, making her way to her final resting place. Hope's family would like to show their appreciation to the community for all their love, support and kindness since their tragic loss, and ask those that are able to line the streets leading to Adambrae Cemetery as Hope passes by in her horse-drawn carriage. A further message posted on Friday laid out the exact route to the cemetery. We will turn left out of the funeral home, continue up Ammanvale East Road, turn right at the mini roundabout along Dedridge East Road, continuing straight over the mini roundabout onto Dedridge West Road, left onto Dedridge North Road, over the roundabout and into Adambrae, it read. It's understood the family arrived at Adambrae Cemetery at around 1:15. A fundraising page launched by family's friend Melanie Wheeldon to help cover the cost of Hope's Day raised more than £10,000, more than 5 times its original £2,000 target. In a statement on the page, she said, "On January 20th, our hearts shattered as we learned of the tragic and senseless murder of 6-year-old Hope. She was a vibrant and loving little girl, known for her infectious smile, kind spirit and deep love for animals. Hope's life was tragically cut short, leaving a void in the hearts of her family and friends that can never be filled." And there's lots of photographs of the horse-drawn carriage and characters from Paw Patrol. And now over to Jessica.
20-mile-per-hour zones set to return under new plan. An article by Stuart Somerville. West Lothian streets are set to see a return to 20-mile-per-hour zones, first introduced under the Spaces for People programme set up during the lockdown. Residential and town centre streets, which figure high in accident statistics, would be among the first to have the new speed limits. Road officers promised greater consultation with the public over the new zones, while those streets chosen will have an 18-month temporary restriction before the new speed limit is made permanent. And questions were raised over how the new limits would be enforced. A report to the Council's Environment and Sustainability PDSP described Transport Scotland's national strategy for 20-mile-per-hour speed limits on appropriate urban and residential roads. The National Transport Agency has a countrywide policy to introduce 20-mile-per-hour limits, slower today for a safer tomorrow, making streets feel safer and encouraging active travel. It is for each local council to determine which local roads in their area should be subject to a new 20-mile-per-hour limit. It also gives councils the flexibility and decision-making responsibilities to decide how best to implement this by way of temporary and permanent traffic regulation orders made under Section 84 of the Traffic Regulation Act 1984. The plan is to introduce the new zones in 3 tiers. Tier 1, Livingston, including Polbeth and West Calder, and Bathgate and Blackburn. Tier 2, locations Broxburn and Uphall, Linlithgow, Armadale and Whitburn. Tier 3, locations in all other remaining settlements. Reports to committee outlined a review of the 586 residential areas considered under the 2024-25 Accident Investigation and Prevention Programme shows that this tackles the areas with most residential casualties first. Kenneth Brown, Roads Network Manager, told councillors, "This is currently being introduced by local authorities across the country. There are 21 local authorities in Scotland that have already commenced this process, rolling out to their local network." Conservative Alison Adamson asked, "Just to confirm, this is coming from Transport Scotland and will be funded by Transport Scotland until the end of 2025. Is that right?" Mr Brown confirmed that, to which Councillor Adamson replied, "That's fine. It's not just something that the council has cooked up to annoy local motorists, if you read social media." Councillor Adamson asked, if an area is designated as 20 miles per hour and the community is not happy about it, can it be removed later on? Mr Brown said the proposed 20 mile per hour zones would be subject to a final review after the temporary traffic orders had been installed. He added, the proposals of engaging with communities will go along with that. We'll be asking for feedback before we introduce the final traffic regulation orders. Pippa Plevin, representing the Joint Forum of Community Councils, told the meeting that many small villages had wanted to retain the 20 mile per hour zones installed during the 18-month Spaces for People programme. She asked why they could not be included in the first tier. Mr Brown said the zones would go to areas where more people could benefit. Scottish Government research shows that a pedestrian hit by a car travelling at 20 miles per hour has a 90% chance of surviving. At 30 miles per hour, the chance of survival drops to 60%. Ms Plevin also pointed out that the 20-mile-per-hour zones introduced during the pandemic had been difficult to enforce. She suggested that the new zones would face the same issue. The police have already said they don't have the resources to do that, Mr Brown said. The police will remain responsible for moving traffic offences. We have not been given any power from Transport Scotland on that. It didn't work during the pandemic. If we are not going to make any changes, how is it going to work this time? Asked Ms Plevin. Chair of the committee, Councillor Tom Conn, said, I think that's more a comment than a question. Whether they enforce it or not is not a matter for us. We are required to carry out the policy, not the enforcement. Gordon Brown said, one of the things we did learn from the rollout during COVID was the number of signs that we put out to show people the speed limit. When we go through the statutory process, we can put repeater signage up so it will be more obvious of the speed limit. Councillors across the chamber gave cautious welcome to the proposals. Plans for the new zones will go before all 9 council local area committees for consultation with local councillors. Councillor Conn said that the key word in the papers was appropriate, and that 20-mile-per-hour zones would only be introduced in areas where it was deemed appropriate for safety. Over to Margaret.
Changes to parking will be in by 2027. That's an article by Stuart Somerville. Parking charges will come to the streets and car parks of West Lothian by 2027, councillors heard this week. Drivers could face a minimum £1 an hour to park on streets or £1 for 2 hours in off-street car parks. There were fears that on-street parking charges could destroy the fragile high streets and criticism that commuters could face an extra £25 a week on top of extortionate real fares to park at stations. Roads officers argued that no decriminalised parking enforcement plan could work by solely relying on off-street charging. The proposed 2-hour limit for on-street parking would also encourage greater movement and more use of town centres. A report to the Environment and Sustainability PDSP this week said decriminalised parking enforcement DPE would result in enforcement powers being managed by the council and would cover the whole of West Lothian. Police Scotland would no longer be responsible for the enforcement of road parking offences on these roads, and this responsibility would pass to the council. Police Scotland would retain enforcement duties on all roads in relation to moving traffic offences such as speed limits, prohibitions and turning manoeuvres. A total of 22 Scottish councils, including neighbouring Falkirk, Edinburgh and North Lanarkshire, already have schemes. The proposed on-street parking is free for the first 30 minutes, with a charge of £1 for up to an hour and £2.50 for a maximum of 2 hours. Off-street parking charges have been proposed for Bathgate, Linlithgow and Broxburn, of £1 an hour to £6 for a day. In Livingston, £1 an hour to £4 a day, and in other towns free for the first hour, £2 for 2 hours and £4 for a day. Gordon Brown, Roads and Transportation Manager, told councillors the favoured option was to manage the enforcement in-house, which would mean hiring traffic wardens. This would give the council control of pricing and a return that would otherwise go to a private company. This would be the most expensive option, costing over £560,000 in revenue costs in 2027-28. The total set-up cost is over $364,000 will come from the Scottish Government. The expected surplus would be £343,000 and it will take this option 2 years, 11 months to pay back to the council. Pippa Plevin, representing the Joint Forum of Community Council, said, back in 2023, when the consultation was published, we were assured that high streets would be safeguarded to encourage shopping locally. There would be no charging on the high street, just time-limited bays, and all that was required was enforcement of illegal parking. Mr Brown said that when enforcement officers would address waiting restrictions as well as parking on double and single yellow lines. He added,
On-street parking charges will encourage turnaround in high streets by providing minimal charging in towns and villages outside business on high streets and high-density areas where people want to go shopping. Union Rep Pat Telford asked, "Is this new parking initiative to stop illegal parking or to raise revenue?" He added, "What I can see here is, particularly with the train stations, these car parks are filled with people commuting to Glasgow and Edinburgh. The train fares are already extortionate. To ask them to pay an extra £25 a week is just going beyond the pale." Conservative councillor Alison Adamson said she agreed with the hefty £7 an hour charges of Central Edinburgh and its 7-day controls and urged the council not to work with Edinburgh. Sorry, that's wrong. That's wrong. Conservative councillor Alison Adamson said she disagreed with the hefty £7 an hour charges of Central Edinburgh and its 7-day controls and urged the council not to work with Edinburgh but instead with Falkirk, which she suggested was performing better. "I think we could learn a lot from Falkirk and their model. I do welcome anything that would get non-blue badge people out of disabled bays." The SNP's Veronica Smith gave cautious welcome to the plans. Chair of the committee, Councillor Tom Conn, said, "We are trying to deal with what is happening on our streets. The paper says the parking regime will be Monday to Friday, not 7 days a week. That would suggest we're not trying to use it as a money raiser." There's a photo along with that. It's a policeman obviously writing a notice for a car. And over to Peter.
Shocking tragedy will take a long time to get over. It's an article by Chief Superintendent Greg Banks. This is my first column of the year, and while the time for wishing everyone a Happy New Year has passed, it is my sincere hope that 2025 shapes up to be a safe and prosperous time for you all. It would be remiss of me not to begin this column with addressing the tragic events that unfolded in West Calder earlier this month with the murder of 6-year-old Hope Gordon. This was a shocking incident that will have a long-term impact on Hope's family and the community as a whole. If there was any glimmer of light within this most horrendous of circumstances, it was the overwhelming outcry of support from the public, both for our investigation and to those directly affected by Hope's death. I want to make it clear that while an incident such as this can cause fear and alarm within communities, we have no evidence to suggest that the person responsible for Hope's death has evaded justice. Following the recent adverse weather we experienced as part of Storm Ian, I'd like to give recognition to all West Lothian's local policing teams, road policing officers and other emergency service colleagues who worked tirelessly in extremely hazardous conditions to keep the public safe and respond to the various weather-related incidents that arose. We are no strangers to bad weather in Scotland, so in advance of the storm, we worked closely with partners at the Met Office, West Lothian Council, Transport Scotland and the Scottish Government to provide the most up-to-date picture of Storm Ian and deliver warnings about staying home and refraining from travel. My thanks also go to the public who adhered to these warnings and did not travel while the red weather warning was in place. This made our efforts to keep people safe much easier and significantly reduced the likelihood of serious injury occurring on our roads or streets. Looking forward in 2025, your local policing teams will continue to address the issues and crime trends most adversely affecting your area, and you have a vital role to play in helping shape our policing priorities for where you live. You can do so by engaging with us at community surgeries, community council meetings, or by participating in our Your Police survey, which is available on our website at www.scotland.police.uk. We know that preventing criminal activity is an important step in building confidence in policing and is a fundamental consideration for the proactive work we carry out within West Lothian. In the coming months, we will be commencing a new project in the region, targeting young people. The aim of this initiative is to divert youths at risk of getting involved in criminal activity away from such scenarios and encourage them to make positive lifestyle choices that can have a benefit to both themselves and their community. More details of this will follow, so please keep reading future editions of this column and follow us on social media. Accompanying the article, there is a picture of Chief Superintendent Greg Banks. And back to Heather.
And that brings us to the end of part 1. And welcome back to part 2. This week there are no family announcements at all. I'm not sure whether this is something new in the Courier or if in fact there was nothing to report, but we shall see. We'll start off with an article entitled Heartbeats Make Lots of Sense Sorry. A West Lothian multisensory class for babies and toddlers is growing fast after its new owner shocked her family by leaving her safe career in teaching to become a business owner. Founded in 2003, award-winning Heartbeats has the fastest growing and most innovative early years classes in the UK, offering fun multisensory music and play sessions for babies and preschool children. The new owner is 37-year-old Fiona Duncan, and she explained how she made the dramatic move from primary teaching to running a business. It looks like a midlife crisis, doesn't it? She laughed, but the reality is a bit different. I'd been taking my 2 girls to Heartbeats while I was teaching and loved the clever way it put the children at the heart of their adventures. And I loved the welcoming atmosphere at the classes too. At the time, it seemed very scary, but it's the best decision I've ever made. Heartbeats are the original musical storytellers and creators of multisensory play for babies and young children with over 20 years' experience. After studying, Fiona is now a fully certified baby yoga and baby massage instructor, allowing her to bring these features to her classes. Currently, the timetable includes classes Monday to Friday in Linlithgow, Bathgate, Broxburn and East Whitburn. Baby Bells classes are for new babies to sitting baby beeps. Classes takes little ones through sitting to standing, and Happy House takes in toddlers to nursery years. New classes are now being added on Wednesday afternoons at Linlithgow Bowling Club, and this will include Baby Bells and Happy House classes. For more information, email fiona.duncan@heartbeeps, that's HARTBEEPS.com, or telephone 07983 565953. And over to Jessica.
Budget overspend cut following intervention. West Lothian's budget overspend for this financial year has been cut by £2.3 million following emergency intervention last November. The Council Executive heard the 2024-25 figure has dropped to £5.8 million after the Council launched a jobs freeze and used savings to offset rising costs. A range of measures were agreed in November 2024 when the Council's estimated overspend was £8.1 million, which is mainly due to increasing and unprecedented demand for social care and homelessness. The measures included a stop on non-essential spend, further enhanced recruitment controls with a recruitment freeze for some areas, and a review of committed funds and one-off balances. While some council operations are predicting an underspend, key services are still facing budget demands. The council is predicting a 3-year overspend of £5.3 million for social care services for adults and older people due to the growth of complex care packages. The West Lothian's older population is growing and continues to grow at a faster rate than the Scottish average. The numbers of people in West Lothian aged 65 to 74 is expected to increase by 19% by 2028, with those aged over 75 increasing by 39%. This is compared to the Scottish average growth of 14.4% in the 65 to 74 population and 25.4% increase in those aged over 75 during the same time period. A £1.4 million overspend is also predicted in social care services for children, mainly due to the cost of delivering placements for young people, such as specialist external residential schools. An overspend of £1.3 million is forecast principally due to the huge demand for temporary accommodation for homeless people. Kenneth Ribbons, Acting Head of Finance and Property Services, said, "Good progress has been made to bring down the Council's projected overspend by £2.3 million in recent months. However, the scale of the projected overspend remains high at £8 million, with further action still required." Over to Margaret.
Family garage put up for sale, an article by Jacob Farr. A family garage in its third generation of ownership has gone up for sale in West Lothian. Hunters of Linlithgow, a car servicing garage and MOT centre in the town, has been part of the Hunter family since it was founded in 1934. Specialist business property advisor Christie & Co are overseeing the sale of the business, which is situated in an industrial estate to the west of Linlithgow town centre. The agent said the business benefits from a strong local customer base as well as commuting trade from the nearby M9 motorway. In the past, the garage has won awards for their service, which includes a range of car garage services including MOT testing, diagnostics, tyres and servicing, specialising in Volkswagen, Audi, group cars, EV vehicles and hybrid vehicles. The business is arranged over 2 workshop garages, a tracking bay, a 2-storey office building and a tyre centre, which is attached to the main property. Current owners, John and Mary Hunter, who have been in charge for the last 24 years, are now selling as they plan to retire. Liam Bain, business agent at Christie & Co, who is handling the sale, said, "This is a rare opportunity to acquire a high turnover, extremely profitable business which is equipped with the latest auto care technology, instruments and tools, providing outstanding customer service through its experienced staff. The full site covers over 0.54 acres, offering a substantial freehold purchase to complement the high-performing business. Located in the central belt of Scotland, the business is strategically placed with a large catchment area of customers and an easy reach of several busy motorways. More information is available on Christie & Co website." And over to Peter.
MP calls for action on fraud cases, an article by Ross Thompson. Livingston's Labour MP Gregor Poynton has pressed the UK government on what action it is taking to combat economic crime in Scotland, as concerns grow over rising fraud cases affecting individuals and businesses. Speaking in the House of Commons during questions to the Solicitor General, Mr Poynton highlighted the increasing prevalence of fraud and economic crime, which is having a devastating impact on constituents in Livingston and across Scotland. Mr Poynton highlighted that fraud does not stop at the border and called for greater UK government action to support Scottish law enforcement in tackling financial crime. Responding to Mr Poynton, the Solicitor General, Lucy Rigby MP, acknowledged the cross-border nature of fraud, particularly online fraud, and stressed the importance of collaboration between the Serious Fraud Office and Scottish authorities. The government, she said, remains committed to strengthening the union and working with Scottish law enforcement to combat fraud. Following the exchange, Mr Poynton said, "Economic crime is on the rise, and my constituents in Livingston are deeply concerned about the growing threat of fraud and financial scams. Victims are often left without justice, while criminals exploit gaps in enforcement. I wanted to ensure the UK Government is taking this issue seriously and working with the Scottish Government, Police Scotland and other law enforcement to tackle fraud head-on. While the Solicitor General outlined the work of the SFO, it's clear that more must be done to crack down on those profiting from fraud and to support victims. People in Scotland deserve to know that fraudsters will be held to account no matter where they operate. And back to Heather.
Excited about your health and fitness. Charity Transforming Lives Across West Lothian. Article by Michael Pringle. There are exciting times ahead for West Lothian residents thanks to a community leisure trust transforming lives for the better through its health and fitness programmes. A registered Scottish charity, West Lothian Leisure, Excite, delivered an impressive $14.4 million in social value through its services and programmes during 2023-24. This substantial achievement reflects its commitment to creating healthier, happier and longer lives for communities across West Lothian. Social value refers to the broader benefits that activities, services or interventions create for individuals and communities, including improvements in physical and mental health, personal development, social well-being and connectivity. The charity's newly published 23-24 annual review has revealed that its social value includes significant reductions in healthcare costs, including £105,444 saved through fewer GP visits, £154,768 in reduced physiotherapy costs, £822,221 saved in type 2 diabetes care, £809,228 in dementia care savings, £460,269 saved by preventing hip fractures, and £235,956 saved in coronary heart disease and stroke care. The data was collated through an Integratis Consulting social value analysis report commissioned by West Lothian Leisure in May 2024. The annual report 2023-24 shows that there were record-breaking 2.6 million visits to West Lothian leisure venues and services, including health and exercise referrals, high and low impact gym classes, swimming sessions, coaching sessions, racket sports and golf sessions. Highlights in the review include 25% increase in concessionary visits through the means-tested Access Excite programme, a collaboration with West Lothian Council that provides discounted access to low-income families and those in receipt of certain benefits. Additional highlights included the introduction of pioneering initiatives like the Fitness Factory, a structured programme designed to introduce 12 to 15-year-olds to gym environments safely and effectively. Among those who have benefited is 12-year-old Fleur Bunscock, who joined the Fitness Factory to prepare for a downhill alpine ski race. Fleur said, "The personalised programme created by the Excite team helped me improve my core strength and balance, enabling me to win my race for the second year running. I feel stronger and more confident. It's been a game changer for me." Following her doctor's recommendation, active 65-plus member Lizzie Woolhams joined Excite to manage osteoarthritis in her knee. Now nearly 70, she attends classes 4 times a week and has seen remarkable improvements. Lizzie said, "I used to think gyms weren't for me, but now I'm stronger, more active and loving life. It's a real community here." In 2023-24, West Lothian Leisure collaborated successfully with organisations such as Chest, Heart and Stroke Scotland, Parkinson's UK and Scottish Gymnastics with the Love to Move Dementia Support Programme, ensuring a broader reach for those who need support the most. Ben Lamb, CEO of West Lothian Leisure, said, "We are incredibly proud to deliver £14.4 million in social value, a testament to the dedication of our staff and volunteers and the ongoing support from our partners, including West Lothian Council. These numbers aren't just statistics, they represent lives changed for the better. Every pound saved for the health service represents lives improved, health preserved and communities strengthened. This is what our mission, creating healthier, happier and longer lives in West Lothian, is all about. We aim to continue growing participation and create opportunities for every West Lothian resident to enjoy the benefits of physical activity and well-being. For more information from West Lothian Leisure programmes, visit www.westlothianleisure.com. And now over to Jessica.
Trio charged following police raids, an article by Ross Thompson. 3 men have been charged in connection with drugs and organised crime offences following a series of police raids during which officers seized Class A drugs worth £1 million. Police Scotland confirmed that 4 people, 3 men and 1 woman, had been arrested following an organised crime operation in West Lothian on Thursday, February the 6th. Officers executed warrants at locations including Fauldhouse, West Calder, Polbeth and Livingston and recovered 21.5 kilos of cocaine worth an estimated street value of £1 million, as well as £80,000 in cash. The men aged 29, 35 and 54 have now been charged and appeared at Livingston Sheriff Court on Monday. The woman aged 54 was released pending further inquiries. The activity was a part of an ongoing investigation, Operation Silhouette, and is led by the Serious and Organised Crime Unit to target and dismantle serious organised crime groups. Inquiries are still ongoing. And over to Margaret.
Little Willow's charity effort is a cut above, an article by Michael Pringle. A caring 8-year-old West Lothian schoolgirl has had her long lock shorn to support children who are ill. Willow Constance from Armadale had 13 inches cut from her hair, and it's for a great cause, as she's donating it to the Little Princess Trust. The Little Princess Trust provides wigs made from real hair, free of charge, to children and young people who have lost their own through cancer treatment or other conditions. 8-year-old Willow has provided a real superhero, also raising £1,100 so far for the charity via a Just Giving page. Her super proud mum, Melissa Potter, said she's only ever had her hair trimmed before and was saying about getting her hair cut. She'd never heard of the Little Princess Trust before. She was wanting a couple of inches off, but I mentioned the Little Princess Trust and she said, "Why don't I get a lot of it off?" And she decided to get 13 inches off. It was a big shock, and she was crying at first, but because she knows where it's going to, it made her feel better about it. She's just used to having such long hair, has only ever had it trimmed. Willow knows her hair will grow back anyway, and she knows it's going to a good cause. I'm really proud of her, and I think she's really proud of herself too. That's she actually done it. She usually goes to the hairdressers, but she wanted her granny, Teresa, to cut it at home for her. Her gran, who used to be a hairdresser, let her cut off the first section herself, which I think really helped her. She was nervous and a bit scared, but really happy she'd done it. Melissa told us that Willow, a pupil at St Anthony's Primary, can't believe how much she's managed to raise so far, with the online fundraiser set to remain open for the next week or so. I managed to get her a shout out on Force One radio, and she was absolutely buzzing. She's off school this week, but can't wait to go back next week and show everyone her new hair. A lot of her teachers donated. They were all really supportive. Willow's fundraising page can be found at justgiving.com/page/Willow Haircut. And over to Peter.
Coffee Giant is latest retailer set for centre. Starbucks is set to become the latest international retailer to open at the centre Livingston. The new store bringing 20 jobs and joins many new arrivals over the past 12 months, including the first Cinnabon branch in Scotland, beauty and wellbeing store Rituals, and Danish lifestyle and homeware brand Sostrin Gren. The new store will accommodate seating for 90 visitors and is expected to open mid-February. To celebrate the opening, the Starbucks team will be handing out discounted vouchers before the doors open, and there will be food and drink sampling on the day. Reusable cups will also be gifted to shoppers across the first 2 days. Patrick Robertsa, Centre Director at the Centre, Livingston, added, "We are really looking forward to welcoming Starbucks to the Centre, Livingston, and delighted they have created 20 new jobs in the local area. We are confident it will be a big hit with our shoppers who like to enjoy some quality time with a great tasting coffee and bite to eat when they visit us." In addition to welcoming new retailers, the owners, LCP, part of MCore, also recently announced plans to expand into the leisure sector. Alongside the article, there is a picture of 2 Starbucks customers enjoying their coffee. And back to Heather.
And that brings us to the end of part 2. And welcome back to part 3, which includes the quiz. Remember to listen at the start of part 4 for the answers. So there are 6 questions. I'm sure you'll get them all right. Question 1. Which horse race run annually at Aintree is the most famous steeplechase in the world? A. Melbourne Cup, B. Grand National, C. Kentucky Derby. Question 2. Which building, designed by Joseph Paxton for the Great Exhibition of 1851, burned down in 1936? A. Crystal Palace, B. Tower of London, C. Buckingham Palace. Question 3. Which Scottish poet wrote To a Mouse and to a Louse? A. Robert Louis Stevenson, B. Robert Burns, or C. Walter Scott. Question 4. In which English county were the artists Thomas Gainsborough and John Constable born? A. Cornwall, B. Kent, C. Suffolk. Question 5. Which British dependency did Sir George Rooke capture from Spain in 1704? A. Gibraltar, B. Cayman Islands, or C. Bermuda. And question 6. Which American tennis player won her first Wimbledon singles title in 1974? A. Billie Jean King, B. Martina Navratilova, or C. Chris Everett. And now back to general news. House raid. Police in West Lothian are appealing for information after a home was broken into. The property on Deanswood Park in Livingston was broken into at around 8 p.m. on Saturday, February the 1st. A black Vauxhall Viva car was taken. Locals have been asked to check private CCTV, doorbell footage and dash cams. Detective Constable Lynn Miles said, "Our investigation to trace those responsible is ongoing, and inquiries so far indicate that there were 2 men seen in the area at the time. We are keen to find out more and are asking the public to check CCTV doorbell footage and dash cams to see if they have captured anything that could assist officers. Contact Police Scotland on 101, quoting incident number 3565. And now over to Jessica.
Ice Cream Lady's future lit at Cool Beach Hut. Council support is boost to business. An article by Michael Pringle. A West Lothian business received funding support from the local authority that helped it move to cool new premises in Winchborough. Villaggio Gelato makes artisan authentic Italian gelato using the finest ingredients and traditional machinery. The company experienced impressive growth in its first year of trading, and its owner-director, Marguerite Spina, was keen to keep that momentum going. There were 2 time-sensitive growth goals for the business: to move into new premises and to update its Villaggio Gelato website. Working on these goals in tandem meant that costs were high and affordability was an issue. To help with this, West Lothian Council provided funding through the Digital Development Grant, which is part funded by the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and is aimed at enhancing the digital capabilities of businesses. West Lothian Council's Economic Development Service administer the funding locally. The funding was used to give the Villaggio Gelato website an exciting update. This ensured customers could browse products and place orders easily, resulting in a more enjoyable online shopping experience. In addition, Villaggio Gelato wanted to reach a wider audience to draw more customers to West Lothian, and in particular focused on the SEO, search engine optimization, capabilities of the website. At the same time, the business secured its new premises and opened the Villaggio Gelato Beach Hut in Winchborough. Another key goal of the business was to attend more events, which would help build Villaggio Gelato's profile and introduce the products to more clients. To support this, funding was provided through the Trade Development Grant, which can be used towards eligible costs associated with attending exhibitions such as renting, setting up and running an exhibition space, stand, electricity and marketing costs. As well as the funding support, business owner Marguerite also benefited from training and upskilling support. She participated in Invest in West Lothian's first Women in Entrepreneurship programme, a 4-part course created to help local businesswomen take their businesses to the next level. During the sessions, participants re-evaluated the current positions of their businesses, identified achievable goals and created a clear plan to follow. This was possible through the Expert Help programme, which is part funded by the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. By the end of the programme, Marguerite had gained clarity into the next stages of growing her business. Marguerite said, "Business Gateway West Lothian was more than a tick box exercise. I felt that as soon as I got in touch with them, they were interested in my business and genuinely wanted me to succeed. With access to resources, training courses and funding, the support I was offered was invaluable. I urge any business in West Lothian to make that first phone call to the team and couldn't recommend them highly enough." Further information about the Digital Development Grant and the Trade Development Grant can be found at www.investinwestlothian.com/business-support/business-funding. To accompany the article is a picture of Marguerite, and she's in front of her new, which can only describe as a luxury beach hut ice cream shop, and it's painted in lovely colours, ice cream colours, pink and vanilla, and she's got a nice blackboard welcoming people to come to the shop in Winchborough for an ice cream. And over to Margaret.
9 council-run nurseries are set to close amid fall in child numbers. An article by Michael Pringle. 9 early learning nurseries in West Lothian have been recommended for closure this August, which the council admit will leave some parents disappointed. Council officers are recommending the nursery closures as there are more child places available than required. Shutting down the nursery services will address the falling numbers of children and the high number of surplus spaces currently within council nurseries. Local authority nurseries have a capacity for over 6,000 nursery children in West Lothian. However, the council has over 2,000 more places than is required this year, almost 30% more than needed to meet demand. Demand is likely to reduce further in the years ahead due to changes in demographics, with a falling number of births in Scotland. Although a small number of areas have seen growth in the number of young people, population changes across the country is reducing overall demand for spaces in many council nursery and child care facilities. Council officers have recommended that Dean's North Nursery, Glenview Nursery School and Ladywell Nursery School, all in Livingston, close in August. The others earmarked are Fauldhouse Nursery, Linlithgow Bridge Nursery, St Anthony's Nursery in Armidale, St Joseph's Nursery Whitburn, as well as Bathgate West Nursery and Our Lady's Nursery in Stonyburn. The last two are already in active services. A decision will be made on the recommendation at Education Executive in March. It should be noted that in 2019, the council had 68 funded nursery, that's ELC, Early Learning Centre, options for parents, carers for over 4,000 eligible 3 and 4-year-olds. That's 88.4% of those came to council settings, and the council now has 95 funded nursery ELC options for over 4,000 eligible 3 and 4-year-olds. That's 78% of those came to council settings. This is due to a huge increase in partner nursery providers. The data provides evidence that there is an over-provision in the ELC options in West Lothian. The Scottish Government introduction of Funding Follows a Child means that parental choices have changed significantly, with many parents now able to choose to use their funded nursery provision at private nursery providers and childminders in West Lothian. This has further reduced the demand for council nurseries. Even with less nursery buildings, the council would still have more than enough capacity to meet demand in each of the community areas affected, given the availability in local alternative nurseries. The proposed changes would see a community-based approach to nursery provision being put in place. This means that children would still have options to attend an alternative council nursery within their existing community. The council would aim to deliver as much continuity as possible for parents, staff and young people should plans be approved. Greg Welsh, the council's head of education, primary and early years, said, "The data shows us that we have more physical capacity than we need, nearly 30% more. This is significant, and we know that birth rates have and continue to fall, which means that demand will continue to reduce in the years ahead. Currently, we have more nursery settings than is required, and we cannot continue to operate this way if we are to ensure that the organisation remains efficient and delivers best value within the available resources. By reducing the physical number of nurseries, we would be better placed to allocate a finite number of staff and resources across a smaller number of nurseries within the same communities. Concentrating resources within a smaller number of nurseries would support improvement in the quality of nursery provision in the remaining nurseries as a result of more efficiently deploying resources. Even with 9 less nursery buildings, multiple options for parents and young people would still be available, such as the oversupply of physical nursery places. A formal statutory consultation has been undertaken with parents and stakeholders on the planned reduction. We do not take a change like this lightly, and we know that some parents will be disappointed with our recommendations, Mr Welsh added. However, we all know that councils the length and breadth of the country are under significant pressure to balance their budgets, such as the growth in demand for services set against the funding available to us. Services cannot remain the same if we are to meet our legal obligation to reduce spending and balance our budget. This is a practical step to address the oversupply of council-run nursery and early learning facilities in West Lothian, whilst ensuring that there is more than enough choice for parents in the communities affected. And there's a photo with this. It's just a photo of a school. It doesn't even indicate which school it is, but it looks like one of the newer schools. And over to Peter.
Attacked driver and collided with police car. Court reporter. An axe-wielding motorist assaulted another driver and collided with a police car before crashing into a garden wall after a high-speed chase. John Douglas, who terrified a female driver in another road rage incident, has been jailed for 3 years and 4 months. The 35-year-old admitted a string of charges including dangerous driving, assault, threatening or abusive behaviour, and driving while disqualified. Hamilton Sheriff Court heard Douglas of Yule Terrace, Blackburn, attacked a man in Larkhall, South Lanarkshire on April the 16th last year. Douglas was waiting at traffic lights in Union Street about 4:30 p.m. When the lights changed to green and he failed to react, the victim, who was waiting behind him in his works van, sounded his horn to alert him. Lewis Devoy, prosecuting, said Douglas immediately got out, walked to the driver's side of the van and shouted, Do you not know who I am? I'm one of the Douglases." Due to his aggressive demeanour, the victim drove off immediately and tried to lose Douglas, who had followed him by driving around Larkhall. He became trapped at a dead end in Helen Wynd, and the accused approached his van and started banging on the window, shouting and swearing. He said that there was damage to his vehicle, but when the victim got out to look, the accused punched him twice in the head. Douglas then went back to his own vehicle, took out an axe and brandished it towards the man. Numerous residents became aware of the disturbance and reported the accused to the police. Officers in a marked police vehicle arrived and Douglas got back into his car and deliberately collided with the police vehicle, causing extensive damage. He then made off at speed, followed by police who saw him drive on the wrong side of the road and failed to stop at traffic lights. He drove at speed into John Street and, with a bus blocking the road, drove along the pavement before crashing into a garden wall and a lamp post. Douglas then made off on foot, but officers detained him a short distance away. Douglas also admitted taking his mother's car without permission, driving dangerously and acting in a threatening or abusive manner in Blackburn, Bathgate and Whitburn on February 6, 2023. On that occasion, a woman was driving 2 passengers home from work around 9:30 p.m. At the time, a Mazda been driven by Douglas pulled into her path, forcing her to make an emergency stop. She gestured, "What are you doing?" and this enraged Douglas, who pursued her Nissan Micra, overtook her and stopped in front of her. She drove around him, but he repeated the manoeuvre and this time blocked her path. He then got out of his car and tried to get into the woman's vehicle before kicking the door. The pursuit resumed and at one point the 2 cars collided. The woman broke the speed limit as she tried to get away from Douglas, who ended his pursuit when 2 police cars came into view. The court heard that Douglas shouldn't have been driving on either occasion, as he was supposed to be serving a ban until 2034. Defence lawyer Eddie Kelly conceded his client's behaviour was reprehensible and that he had an appalling record for various driving offences. He had turned to drink and drugs after the breakdown of a long-term relationship. Referring to the axe incident, Mr. Kelly said he was concerned the other man was about to produce a weapon from his vehicle. "My client is a landscape gardener and he had a number of tools, including the axe, with him. He accepts it would have been a frightening experience for the other driver." Sheriff Mungo Bovey told Douglas he would have been jailed for 5 years but for his guilty pleas. The 40-month sentence was backdated as he has been in custody since April. The sheriff also imposed a fresh driving ban of 13 years and 4 months. Back to Heather.
Jobs risk as quiz future on the line. Article by Chris Gourley. A West Lothian clothing store could be forced to close with its owners on the brink of administration. Hundreds of jobs are at risk, with Glasgow-based fashion firm Quiz experiencing financial issues which could result in the permanent closure of its Livingston branch. Quiz also operates a concession outlet in New Look at Edinburgh's Fort Kinnaird shopping centre. Founded in 1993, the retailer at its peak had over 300 stores worldwide, with the vast majority in the UK and Ireland. However, the firm has faced financial hardship in the past, and in 2020 it placed 82 of its UK branches into administration before buying them back, with the loss of 92 jobs. Last year, bosses warned the company would run out of cash in early 2025 without new funding, reports the Scottish Daily Express. At the time, the company described the Christmas trading period as disappointing and said its cash reserves were less than previously anticipated. It blamed the impact of inflationary pressures on consumer confidence and spending, on the poor trading conditions, as well as subdued consumer demand for the brand. The situation was so bad that bosses took the decision to delist the company from the London Stock Exchange in a money-saving move. Chairman Peter Cowgill warned last year that the company needs to substantially reduce costs, which will likely see the closure of parts of the business. Beyond that, he wrote, there exists substantial risks associated with the group's ability to continue as a going concern. And now over to Jessica.
Minister gets lowdown on charities' work with elderly, an article by Ross Thompson. A West Lothian charity whose volunteers deliver shopping and cook meals for thousands of vulnerable older people has briefed a Scottish Government minister on its crucial work to tackle malnutrition and loneliness. Public Health Minister Jenny Minto heard directly from members of Food Train in Livingston as they shared the positive difference that its services make to their lives. Miss Minto also thanked the charity's volunteers locally and nationally for their work, while highlighting the Scottish Government's determination to address malnutrition among older people. Food Train works with about 3,000 people across Scotland, including 245 in West Lothian, to help them live independent, healthier and happier lives in their own homes. It does that through shopping, meal making and befriending services. The charity is at the forefront of action to tackle malnutrition among older Scots and in calling for greater focus on addressing growing concerns about the issue. Its screening suggests that at least 16% of people aged 65 and over across the country either are or are at risk of becoming malnourished. As part of her visit this week, Miss Minto held discussions with Food Train Chief Executive Rosie McCluskey and other staff members, as well as chatting with volunteers who make deliveries, as well as some of those who use the services. The Minister said, I thank Food Train's volunteers and staff for their invaluable work preventing malnutrition and loneliness in thousands of older people across Scotland and specifically here in West Lothian. It was a privilege to see at first hand the impact that Food Train is having in communities struggling with the increased cost of living. I have also heard how programmes like Eat Well, Age Well and Meal Makers allow people to continue to enjoy living independently and enjoying healthy food in their own homes. This reinforces our determination to address malnutrition and loneliness in older people, with Food Train as a trusted partner. To help with the earlier identification of malnutrition, Food Train has long called for mandatory malnutrition screening by all agencies supporting older people and increased investment in community initiatives tackling isolation and increasing opportunities for older people to eat. Miss McCluskey said, we were pleased to welcome Miss Minto and thank her for making the time to visit. We hope that our discussions were helpful as our members highlighted what our services mean to them. We are keen to collaborate with partners of all kinds to build on our work to increase awareness and drive down malnutrition among older people. We are grateful to the Scottish Government for supporting our Eat Well, Age Well and Meal Makers initiatives in recent years. These, along with our shopping, delivery and other services, ensure our members not only have the food they need to eat well, but enjoy the life-enhancing company they need to live well. The unique relationships our volunteers nurture with older people help deal with the root causes of malnutrition and loneliness. And there are some nice pictures of the visit of the Minister, Jenny Minto, to Food Train. They have got... She had a meeting with the volunteers and Rosie McCluskey, and there's pictures of them all smiling. Also, she was talking to the clients of Food Train, and they're all enjoying a cup of tea and a chat, and they're probably telling her how much this service means to them. And over to Margaret.
Cash boost for Heritage Trust, an article by Ross Thompson. Almond Valley Heritage Trust has secured funding for an exciting new initiative. The Trust has received cash from the Museum Development Fund, Museum Gallery Scotland, to support the delivery of Project Breakout, an ambitious community-centred initiative that will welcome local communities, school children and visitors as co-creators to reimagine the museum for the future. Through a series of artist-led, interactive, playful and inclusive workshops, integrational audiences will be invited to deepen their understanding of the collections within, revealing new perspectives and exploring more contemporary themes, particularly the journey from the fossil-fuelled industrial revolution to the green revolution. Together, they will co-design new exhibitions, displays and interpretations, culminating in the creation of a new community exhibition space, which will feature multiple community-owned displays throughout the year, the first of which will be curated by the next generation as part of a school engagement programme, Project Breakout. It seeks to place our heritage in the hands of history makers of the past, present and future, transforming the museum from a passive cabinet of the past into a portal to the future. It seeks to foster a deeper understanding of the value of our social and cultural heritage, nurture community spirit and resilience, and ensure that the heritage preserved within its walls resonates with a broader audience. At the heart of Project Breakout is a vision to seamlessly integrate the Museum of the Scotland Shale oil industry into the wider Almond Valley Heritage Centre experience, bringing reactive the wider built heritage in our care. Nicola Donaldson, curator at Almond Valley Heritage Trust, said, "This is a pivotal moment for us to connect deeply with our community and collaboratively explore the museum of the future. We're excited to seize this opportunity to inspire, engage and share stories that resonate with our audiences while reflecting the world we live in today." Jen Howard Combs, director at Almond Valley Heritage Trust, added, "As a much-loved and trusted heritage charity, Almond Valley Heritage Trust is a wonderful sanctuary of learning and discovery for integrational audiences residing locally, regionally and increasingly beyond. We believe passionately in the value of our heritage and recognise the invaluable role it plays in bridging the past, present and future, nurturing community spirit and resilience, and inspiring a better world." At its core, Project Breakout is a celebration of the power and promise of community. At a time of global challenge, it feels like a wonderfully timely opportunity to encourage people to gather, share and explore and connect. As part of the project, Almond Valley Heritage Centre aims to become a force for good in the community, driving local economic growth and enhancing the social, cultural and reputational standing of West Lothian. Through its progressive innovation and community-driven approach, the centre will become a vital hub for learning, exploration and social impact. And there's various photos of the Heritage Trust at the moment. There's one of the mill, the old mill. There's photos with the paraffin light and mineral articles. There's some photos of people walking through the museum, but they obviously want it to change in the future. And over to Peter.
Concerns raised over treatments, an article by Stuart Somerville. Greater controls over the growing trade in high street cosmetic treatments would be welcomed, West Lothian councillors have agreed, as they raise concerns about how any such rules could be enforced. Cosmetic treatments such as Botox, including at-home Botox parties and dermal fillers, have grown in recent years, but there are concerns that some treatments can be carried out by anyone without proper training. Responding to a Scottish Government consultation on extending licensing, environmental health officers told West Lothian councillors that it was difficult to police what are elective and voluntary procedures. Additional environmental health and licensing duties will also put pressure on a council department struggling with its current workload. In a report to the executive this week, Craig Smith, the council's environmental and trading standards manager, said, whilst the risks of harm to people choosing to undergo procedures is real and recognised, it is also recognised that many, if not most, procedures are elective and voluntary on the part of the client. So it is difficult to fully support the introduction of these controls, knowing that in many cases clients are putting themselves at risk out of choice when local authorities do not have adequate resources to protect wider public health and safety in other higher priority areas of work. Currently, some procedures are licensed under the Civic Government Scotland Act 1982. These include skin piercing, tattooing and microblading, the procedure which creates semi-permanent eyebrows by colouring fine cuts in the skin. However, there are an ever-increasing number of treatments known as non-surgical cosmetic procedures, NSCP, which fall out with the scope of the current licensing scheme. If they are not carried out by medical practitioners, which are regulated by Healthcare Inspectorate Scotland, they are more or less unregulated. The consultation asked for views on the proposed controls on NSCP. These include biotherapy or injections of any products derived from the patient's blood, injections to treat varicose veins, dermal micro-coring or skin removal, the removal of skin tags, or any procedure such as liposuction, which removes fat or fluid intravenously. These are procedures which Holyrood suggests should only be carried out in either an independent clinic or other healthcare setting regulated by HIS, or an establishment which is licensed by the local authority. It also suggests that wherever procedures take place, they should be carried out by a suitably trained and qualified practitioner or by an appropriate healthcare professional. Clarification should also be sought on the levels of training required. The report to the executive said, whilst there are clearly concerns regarding the unregulated aspects on NSCPs, any new requirements for licensing or control will place additional burdens on local authorities across the country. Legal services currently administer the licences for skin piercing, etc., with environmental health carrying out the necessary inspections for licence, alongside other ongoing statutory obligations for enforcing health and safety legislation in these establishments. It added, even if local authorities can apply charges for licensing, it is unlikely to provide any additional staff resources to address the work demands of this new regulatory obligation. It will draw staff resources from other priority workload, which is undesirable at any time, but particularly more so in the current situation, where there is a significant recruitment and retention challenge in legal services and in environmental health and trading standards locally and nationally. The executive agreed with the officer response to the Holyrood consultation. And back to Heather.
And that brings us to the end of part 3. Hello and welcome back to part 4. And we will have the results of the answers to the pub quiz and a couple of articles, and we'll finish up with a wee bit sport. So, pub quiz answers. Question 1. Which horse race run annually at Aintree is the most famous steeplechase in the world? That was A, Melbourne Cup, B, Grand National, or C, Kentucky Derby. And the answer, I'm sure you all knew, was the Grand National. Question 2. Which building designed by Joseph Paxton for the Great Exhibition of 1851 burned down in 1936? Was it A, Crystal Palace, B, Tower of London, or C, Buckingham Palace? And the answer was A, Crystal Palace. Question 3. Which Scottish poet wrote To a Moose and To a Loose? Was it A, Robert Louis Stevenson, B, Robert Burns, or C, Walter Scott? And I'm sure we all knew that was Robert Burns. Question 4. In which English county were the artists Thomas Gainsborough and John Constable born? A, Cornwall, B, Kent, or C, Suffolk? And the answer was C, Suffolk. Question 5. Which British dependency did Sir George Rooke capture from Spain in 1704? A, Gibraltar, B, Cayman Islands, or C, Bermuda? And the answer was A, Gibraltar. Question 6. Which American tennis player won her first Wimbledon singles title in 1974? A, Billie Jean King, B, Martina Navratilova, or C, Chris Evert? And the answer was C, Chris Evert. Hope you all did well in the quiz. We'll now move on with the next article. Garden Centre lays on Mother's Day fun. Article by Ross Thompson. This March, Dobie's Garden Centre is offering a new hands-on Mother's Day experience at its Livingston store, combining a luxury afternoon tea with a seasonal planting workshop. The Mother's Day afternoon tea and planting experience will take place from Friday, March the 28th to Sunday, March the 30th. Guests can celebrate the arrival of spring in style as they explore a selection of new plants and flowers to create an outdoor planter bursting with vibrant seasonal colour, perfect for brightening up patios, front doors or balconies. Attendees will enjoy a 90-minute experience that begins with a relaxing luxury afternoon tea. This delightful treat features 3 tiers of sweet and savoury delights, plus unlimited tea and coffee refills. The luxury afternoon tea offers an assortment of freshly made finger sandwiches, including soft cheese and cucumber, egg mayonnaise with watercress and ham, rocket and red onion chutney. After enjoying afternoon tea, guests will head to the plant area in the Livingston store, where Dobie's Green team will host a question and answer and guide them through creating a beautiful seasonal planter to take home worth up to the value of £40. Each guest will receive gloves and all the tools they need, as well as Cotswold planter made of 100% recycled plastic, available in white or aqua, and a variety of spring plants carefully selected by Dobie's senior buyer, Nigel Lawton. Guests will learn planting tips and techniques before creating their very own seasonal planter to take home and enjoy for months to come. Tickets for the Mother's Day afternoon tea and planting experience are priced at £45 per person and will be available to book at www.dobies.com/events. And now over to Jessica.
You can bank on Fauldhouse to set you up with football boots. An article by Ross Thompson. With the cost of living crippling many at present and with many unable to afford luxuries, unfortunately sometimes luxuries can mean things like football boots. Fauldhouse United are setting up a football boot bank where people can get a pair of boots to play and enjoy the sport without having to fork out a pricey sum or have fear of being judged for not having the correct footwear. On launching this project, the club's Director of Football, Stephen Sharp, said, "We are delighted to kickstart this initiative. At Fauldhouse United, we don't want financial problems to be a barrier for any type of participation in football. Football boots can be very expensive, and we want to do our bit to try and avoid financial difficulties that may be stopping people developing their skills or just taking part in a kickabout with their friends to help their mental health, well-being and social inclusion. To help us to do this, we need help and support. So if you have any old football boots in wearable condition, maybe they no longer fit or you have a new pair, we would love if you could donate, and we will ensure they are available to those who need. All sizes are welcome and it's open to all age groups. These include boys, girls, men and women. To request or donate, please just contact the club's Facebook page or email technical@faulthouseunited.co.uk for details on how to donate and if you'd like to request a pair, and if the club has the ability, we will help you. And over to Margaret.
Youth charged after security guard taken to hospital in shopping centre incident. Police recorded 168 antisocial behaviour calls in southern Livingston in the last 3 months of the year, with charges brought against those involved in an incident which saw a security guard taken to hospital. Sergeant Lee Brodie, a local community officer, thanked members of the public for their assistance in identifying youths involved in an incident which led to a security guard being taken to hospital in late December. Councillors heard that the bulk of the calls related to antisocial behaviour in and around the town shopping centre. Police and emergency services were called to the shopping centre late in the afternoon of December the 17th following an incident. A shopping centre security guard had to be taken to hospital after an apparent heart attack. Sergeant Brodie told the Livingston South Local Area Committee there was a highly publicised incident that happened where there was an altercation and a security guard took unwell and had to be taken to hospital. I'm pleased to say I understand he's doing well. We fairly promptly, with the help of the public, managed to identify the youths involved. They were not from the local area, but we were able to identify them, trace them and charge them all, and reports have been submitted in relation to them. So I would particularly extend my thanks to the public who did actually help us identify who those individuals were. A police report to the committee added officers to continue to focus on ESB in the town centre area. With multiple patrols as a result, various youths were identified and action taken, with 2 youths being charged with offences. A further 2 youths were also issued with banning letters by the retail premises themselves with support of community officers. In his report, the officer said the Q3 ASB incidents figure for the Livingston South Ward was 168 calls. This includes all calls with an ASB tag, which includes public nuisance, noise, drinking in public, neighbour disputes, ASBO and damage calls. This figure will also include any youth calls, which are discussed at the weekly partnership TAC to enable capture of any youth ASB hotspots. Sergeant Brodie added, we have the town centre in this ward, so as you can imagine, that would account for a fair degree of those figures. And there's a photo that goes along with it, and it's 2 police vans outside the centre. And over to Peter.
Kid promise still has to be kept. A new report has found that unexpected events and systematic barriers have delayed a promise, which impacts care-experienced children, young people and adults in West Lothian. This year marks the midway point since Scotland made a promise to care-experienced children and young people that they would grow up loved, safe and respected. Report 3, published by the Oversight Board for the Promise, has found issues impacting the workforce and in whole family support that has meant the promise isn't halfway to being kept. However, the board, whose role is to report on whether Scotland is keeping the promise, consider that the progress made, added to the restated commitment of those responsible, mean that it is still possible to deliver by 2030. The report found that too many people cannot access the right family support when they need it, including housing barriers, issues with support for kinship, adoption and foster carers, and gaps in data to understand what really matters to children and families. Short-term funding cycles have also been highlighted as an issue. David Anderson, chair of the Oversight Board, said, "All our board members know how important it is that the promise is kept. Many of us have direct experience of care, whilst every one of us strives to keep the promise in our working lives. What we need now is action around spending decisions, bravery to do things differently, to count what matters rather than what is easy or politically palatable. Some people, some organisations and some systems are not yet doing enough. This risks the country as a whole failing to deliver the promise." In saying that, this report recognises and wishes to highlight that many people across West Lothian are keeping promise in their day-to-day work. And back to Heather.
And we'll finish up with some sport. Woe for Gallant. Linlithgow Rose coach Eamon Fullerton was left frustrated by their second-half display as they let their lead slip in a 2-1 defeat to Celtic B. The Gallant have yet to beat B team this season, and their hoodoo continued as the young Celts rallied after the break to cancel out Laurie Devine's opener. Rose are now fourth in the Lowland League, and Fullerton said, "I thought in the first half we were excellent. We played really well and forced Celtic B into errors. We were lucky to come in at half-time just 1-0 up. We were deserving of 2-0 or 3-0 because we had a couple of chances and Connor McMillan hit the post. I was happy at half-time and instructed the guys to keep doing what they had been doing. That didn't happen. It wasn't to be. There was some good news for the club as they signed forward Harry McClendon on loan from League One side Queen of the South, and midfielder Connor McMillan signed a long-term deal." Fullerton added, "We know Connor inside out. He is a great player, has great attributes and gets us playing when he is in the team. It's a great capture for us. Harry comes with a good pedigree, scoring goals for the reserves, so we'll get him bedded in over the next few weeks." Over to Jessica.
Livingston are on the march. Pride of Lions. A hat-trick of big wins in the league and cups has boss beaming. An article by Paul Thompson. Livingston boss David Martindale heaped praise on his Lions after coming through an 8-day spell with 3 huge victories that could shape their season. Following last week's sensational win over Falkirk to stay in title contention in the Championship, Martindale's men dumped Dunfermline out of the SPFL Trust Trophy to reach next month's final against Queen's Park. And on Saturday, they completed the hat-trick with a 3-0 win over Cove Rangers, courtesy of a Ryan McGowan goal and a late Titi Yengi double, to reach the quarter-finals of the Scottish Cup, where they now host Premiership side St Johnstone. After such a gruelling schedule, Martindale was impressed by his side's energy levels as they continued to battle on 3 fronts. He said, "Being through to the next round is the most important thing. I was a wee bit worried about going into the game, being a wee bit passive, a wee bit lethargic, but that was the one constant that wasn't there. I thought the boys' intensity levels were quite high coming off the back of a tough 8 days, big games and last Wednesday night on a really heavy park. They applied themselves well. Cove made it difficult for us. They had a go, but I thought we were our own enemies at times in terms of being a wee bit slack in possession. But I don't think you can take anything away from the players. They've had 3 absolutely huge games in 8 days and they've turned up in every one of them, scoring 7 goals and 1 against. We're in a cup final, we've caught up with the pace a wee bit at the top of the table in the league, and now we're into a quarter-final of the Scottish Cup. The players need to take a lot of credit for that. The subs made a big impact and Titi has come in and made a big contribution. Martindale marked a big milestone in his Lions career as he racked up his 200th game in charge, but he was keen to play it down. He added, "I'm proud to be the Livingston manager, and I suppose I should be proud of that statistic, but I don't really look into these things. It's a personal achievement, and that's not really me. I'm more about the collective. These things don't bother me. It's not really something I think about." The Lions are quickly reunited with Dunfermline as they welcome them to Almondvale on Saturday for a league clash. Martindale said, "The schedule has been all over the place. It has been a bit chaotic with Friday night games, midweeks, etc., but I'm really pleased with the energy levels of the players." Meanwhile, the SPFL has announced that the Trust Trophy final against Queen's Park will be played at Falkirk Stadium on Sunday, March the 30th. Kick-off is 4:10pm, with the game shown live on BBC Alba. To accompany this article, there's a picture of the Lions celebrating, and this was the goal that Ryan McGowan scored after it was his opening goal in the Scottish Cup win over Cove on Saturday. And over to Margaret.
Monarchs Academy gearing up for season. Stella and Monarchs Academy are ready to tackle the 2025 season with the WSRA National Development League fixture list now unveiled. The team will open the campaign with a Super Saturday home fixture against Middlesbrough Tigers on April the 12th. Followed by another special Saturday showdown against Bellevue Colts on Saturday, May the 10th, both at 7pm. Stella and Monarchs Academy co-promoter John Campbell said, "We are pleased with how the fixture list has come together for the upcoming season. There is a steady pacing to the Academy's fixtures throughout the season, and it's terrific that we will present weekly speedway at Armadale Stadium from the start of the season, scheduled right through to May the 30th, which is reserved for the next round of the Maxi Cab Knockout Cup. This is great consistency, and we hope that our supporters will turn out to support the Academy side and get their weekly fix of fantastic speedway at Armadale Stadium." The Academy then continue the season with back-to-back Sunday road trips to Oxford on Sunday, May the 25th, and Middlesbrough on Sunday, June the 15th, both a 3pm start. The team then returned to Armadale Stadium on Friday, July the 11th against Leicester Lion Cubs. Monarchs' away match at Scunthorpe will now be a double-header with the newly named Steelers team taking on the Academy following the Cab Direct Championship clash. Supporters can then stay south to follow the team into Leicester for the Lions Cubs versus Academy match on Sunday, July the 27th. A homestand on Friday, August the 1st and 15th see the Academy take on Scunthorpe and Oxford respectively, before rounding out the season away against Bellevue Colts on Sunday, September the 7th. And over to Peter.
Reds savour 12-try triumph. The Lithgow Reds turned on the style with a 12-try triumph over North Berwick on Saturday, landing an 80-10 win on the road. Recreation Park, North Berwick, was the venue for the latest Reds outing in Arnold Clark National League Division 4. And having triumphed by 83-0 in the earlier fixture between the sides, the visitors were wary of a backlash from the home side, but this never materialised. Good playing and overhead conditions greeted both sides, and there was a decent away support. The Reds made some enforced changes from the previous game versus Dunfermline, with Oscar Davies, Ewan Mockery and Luke O'Hara all unavailable. Ian McGee returned in the second row, with Kieran Cochrane dropping into the back row and Ross Martin resuming at number 8. There were also welcome places on the bench for high-scoring Callum Lindsay and a debut for 17-year-old Lewis McGill. The Reds started the game with a bang and were 2 tries ahead within 5 minutes. After some excellent build-up play provided some good ball, slick passing sent Cammy Murray in for 2 tries, both converted by Jack Frame. The home side did respond with an unconverted try, but the visitors soon stretched the lead with a try from Bruce Stewart after another clean phase of passing created space out wide. The tries continued to flow, with Cammy Murray kicking over the defence to allow Ross Tulloch to dive on the ball over the line. Ruth Stewart added another try, closely followed by a try from captain Jack Frame, as the visitors piled under pressure. Jack added 3 more conversions to take the score to 40 points to 5 at half-time, although he had an extended break when yellow-carded by the referee. The first half had been dominated by all 6 tries coming down the wide-out right-hand channel, and were all scored by backs, but special mention must go to the forward pack, who created solid scrum and line-out platforms. In addition, there was some excellent driving play in the loose, with many ball carriers, and in particular Ross Martin, Jamie Tulloch and Fraser Mockery were outstanding. The only blip in the first half was the team getting drawn into some scrappy midfield play, when the obvious route to points was exploiting the wide-out channels, but some credit should go to the North Berwick team, who fought bravely against superior opposition. For the start of the second half, the Reds introduced McGill for his debut, and his first action was to scythe down the North Berwick second row forward with a textbook tackle. By this point in the game, the Reds had deployed all 4 replacements, with Aidan Mockery, Stuart Cunningham and Callum Lindsay entering the fray in addition to McGill. The second half took a while to get going as the home side tried to gain some territory, and play again got a bit scrappy. However, when they remembered to move the ball wide and early, the Reds immediately scored a try. Ross Tulloch made good ground from his own half and gave a well-timed pass to Jack Frame, supporting on his inside, and he outstripped the defence to score under the posts. The tries began to flow at regular intervals during the half, with Fraser Mockery galloping over after a long-bursting 30-metre run to the line. North Berwick did get another try following a tap penalty, but normal service was resumed, with the most popular try of the day when debutant Lewis McGill showed real strength and determination to battle his way over the line, much to the delight of his fellow players and the travelling support. Almost straight from the restart, Bruce Stewart completed a personal hat-trick of tries when he took a scoring pass from Ross Tulloch and glided over in the corner. Replacement winger Callum Lindsay was determined to get in on the try-scoring act, and he burst through several tackles to score next to the post. His try-scoring efforts have been worthy of mention all season, and it was great to see him on the score sheet again today. The final act of scoring fell to Ross Tulloch, who was involved in many of the tries scored, when he dotted down wide out for the 12th and last try. Jack Frame converted 5 out of 6 kicks in the second half, giving him a personal haul of 30 points in the game. The result has Reds 4th in the division, ahead of hosting Greenock Wanderers on Saturday, kick-off 2 p.m. And along with the article, there is up to about 6 pages of various examples of action, all showing dominant Linlithgow play. Back to Heather.
And that brings us to the end of this week's recording. We hope you have enjoyed it. So it's goodbye from the members of Team 6, our engineer Ray, our readers Jessica, Margaret, Peter and myself, Heather. Until our next recording, have a good week.